Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
Alrighty, hey folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live tonight from the Asylum Studios, from the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass. And of course, as always, doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we can muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. All right, folks, we got one for you tonight. Waiting backstage, we have award-winning author Frank S. Joseph. He'll be with us here momentarily. Folks, I hope you guys have been having a great week. It's been an interesting week for us here. Much going on. So we did our show Sunday, we did our show Monday, we did our show, well, we didn't do our show last night. We were invited to sit on a panel show at the Texas Nationalist Movement, and so that's what we did last night. So once we can get that put together and distributed, we'll have that as a special episode of our show, and we'll do that soon. We'll let you know when we're able to do that. So that was a lot of fun, though. I really didn't know what to expect. I never sat on a panel show before, so it was pretty good. I enjoyed it immensely. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good feedback. So we're excited to see when we can get our hands on the file, so we can load it up here for you as an episode. And then, of course, tonight we have Frank Joseph with us, and we're going to be getting into him shortly. And then we got a packed week. We got a show tomorrow night, Friday night. We have an event on Saturday. We have a show Saturday. We have an event Saturday night, and then we have a show Sunday. Then we have a show Monday. We are doing 10, maybe 11 days straight of shows. So we got a lot of stuff going on. And so bear with us as we go through it all. I'm sure we're going to have some screw-ups along the way, right? Absolutely. All right, and I hope you guys were able to catch the last show we did here on our channel with the folks over at the Source Cards, Alexander Dunlop. So that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that conversation. Probably a little bit too much. I probably shouldn't have enjoyed it so much, but I did. But it was great. And hope you guys can check that out. It's still available up there on the channel, so make sure you please go over there and check it out. And speaking of going over to the channel, please, when you get there, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share the show with your friends, your family, and your followers. That way you can help us grow and help this little thing explode into something much bigger. We're looking forward to that. And remember that this is a live show, weeknights, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And so you get all the good stuff. You get all the bloopers, all that stuff, fresh off the press. So we're excited. We like to do that. It's a lot of fun. That's why I do it live. I don't like doing recording. Recording's boring. You know, oh, I don't like the way I sounded. Let me back it up and start again. Just do the show. Have fun. Let it roll. Like when I was preaching back in the days up in New York, my senior pastor used to tell me, just let it rip, man. Just let it rip. Just go. Just do it. Don't worry about it. Just do it. That's what we do. So we have a lot of fun, and that's how we try to do. All right. With that said, let's get the housekeeping stuff out of the way. This way we could bring in our guest. So, folks, I want to tell you about Podhome, podhome.fm. Podhome is our host audio platform, and I've been with them for about 3 years. They're a great platform to be a part of. Podhome is the most modern, easy-to-use podcast hosting platform you are going to find. You can use it to publish your episodes, enhance your audio, automatically generate chapters, titles, show notes, transcripts. You can do chapter art, episode art, cover art, all that great stuff. You can even podcast live, which is what we do as well. Not only are we broadcasting live or transmitting live across these across the internet feeds here, the video shows, but we're also doing a live feed on our audio on our website. So you can easily check that out as well across also the modern podcast apps. They are fantastic. You can check them out. And you know what else? Also, you get a free website with Podhome. So if you are just starting out in your podcasting adventure, you get a free website. Maybe you don't have one yet. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful website. They do a great job with it, and no extra charge for that. And now the latest feature they have is that you can actually upload your video file, and so the modern podcast apps, you can switch between the audio and the video. It's a great feature. I don't think there's any other platform out there that does that right now. So check them out. Podhome.fm, podhome.fm, everything that you need in one place for one affordable monthly subscription of $15.99 a month. That's it, just $15.99 a month. And on top of that, if you sign up today, you get 30 days free. So why don't you head over to podhome.fm. That's podhome.fm. All right. Also, just want to invite you to go visit our website, joerooz.com. joerooz.com. When you get over there, look for that contact section. Open up the little web form and send us over a message. Let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, or concerns that you might have. If you have a complaint, you shouldn't have any complaints. But if you do, you can drop it right there, and we'll make sure that we give it the due attention that it deserves. And then also, if you maybe you have an idea for a guest or a particular subject you'd like us to cover on the show, drop it to us. Let us know what you're thinking. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you don't want to use the web form, totally fine. You can always email me here at the show at info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. And or you could also drop a comment down below on Rumble, on YouTube, wherever, and we'll make sure that we get to those as well. And then also, while you're there, check out the support page. Look at all the different ways you can help support our effort here at the Joe Rooz Show. All right, and last but not least, let's see. Tonight's guest is being brought to you by Podmatch. Podmatch.com/member/Joe. That is the place to go to find out more about this show and more about Podmatch. Most podcast hosts and guests spend hours researching connections, coordinating interviews, and working on administrative tasks while only spending 10% of their time on what really matters, and that's bringing impactful podcast episodes. Podmatch enables podcast guests and hosts to reclaim their time through automations and streamline processes so they can focus on creating content that actually serves their listeners. So head over to podmatch.com/member/Joe. That's podmatch.com/member/Joe. And who knows? Sign up. You might end up being a guest on our show one day. That'd be pretty awesome. So check it out. podmatch.com/member/Joe. All right. Now, I wish I had a drum roll track. I keep thinking about doing that. I keep forgetting to put it in here. So one of these days I'll get one. But tonight here on the show, we are joined by Frank S. Joseph, an author and former AP journalist who lived through and reported on some of the most turbulent years in mid-century Chicago. His Chicago trilogy of award-winning historical novels blends lived experience, racial conflict, and unforgettable characters to bring the 1940s to the 1960s America alive to you. Frank's unique vantage growing up on Chicago's South Side, covering riots as a young reporter and later shaping stories as a Washington editor makes this a compelling look back at how the past divides still shape us today. Frank Joseph, welcome to the show, my friend.
Terrific introduction, Joe. Thank you very much. Love being here.
Well,
pleased to be here. Flattered to be here.
Nah, we're just a little guy. Nothing big here. But it is great to have you here, man. We had a great conversation prior to the show starting, and I'm seeing all your peeps here jumping in and checking out the show down below there. That's awesome. And I hope they can actually hear it and see it, because I don't know if they can see it from down there. But regardless, hey, we are glad to have you watching. We appreciate you being here. So I told you before the show that we do like to ask a couple little icebreaker questions just to get you warmed up. So you ready to go?
I'm hit it.
All right, I might give you different ones that I gave you before.
I bet you will. That'd be great. And show by guest.
There you go. So, all right, Frank. So what's something people get wrong about you that you enjoy correcting?
Twice in my life, I have been mistaken. I have been taken for Brazilian. I've never been to Brazil. I'd love to go to Brazil, but I've never been there. I have no connection with Brazil. I can't speak Portuguese. It's happened at least twice. It might have happened more than twice. I can't explain it.
Well, don't feel bad. I can't speak Portuguese either, so we're both in the same boat. Well, I live down here in Eagle Pass, Texas, which is mostly Spanish speaking, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish.
I do speak Spanish.
No, that I don't. I mean, you think I would. I've been here for almost 10 years, you know.
My son lives in Taos, New Mexico, just over the border, and he was born in Chile, and he doesn't speak much Spanish either.
You know where I get confused with it, though, is because my family spoke Italian. And so Italian and Spanish, there's some similarities there. And sometimes, you know, I have a hard time making the adjustment in the old brain there.
You know, if I had another life to live, I would learn Italian. It's such a beautiful language.
It is.
Yeah.
Beautiful language, beautiful women.
Just beautiful to listen to.
Beautiful food, beautiful music.
Yeah.
There's no better opera than Italian opera.
Right.
My opinion.
Right. Right. And there's no warmer country than Italy. I was only there once. It was the people are the warmest people I've ever encountered.
Yeah, most Italians are.
And great food. Oh. Never had bad food in Italy.
You know what? The beautiful thing is, like, my grandmother, both grandmothers, both sides, made authentic, from scratch pastas, beautiful Italian meals. I miss those Sunday dinners where mom and grandma got up at dark 30 and started cooking, and you woke up you just smelled the sauce and the fresh bread, and it was just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta
get
back to it, brother. I gotta get back to it.
Right.
So, all right. So next question. Do you want the coffee question or do you want the other question?
Either one. I think I'm ready for both.
I'll ask you both then. All
okay.
Right. All right. So if you were able to sit down and have a 2-hour coffee with anyone, who would it be and why?
It would be Job. And I don't know why Job came to my mind, but he did. And I think Job came to my mind because he is the hardest character to understand in the Bible. And I kind of want to spend 2 hours seeing if I could get to the bottom of it a little bit.
Well, that'd be interesting. That'd be a really interesting conversation,
I
especially if
sure
you're
would.
especially if you're spending any time reading the book of Job. Job is an amazing book. Just
It's an amazing book, and it's the most inscrutable thing in the Bible.
Mhm.
And I'm not a student of the Bible, but it's, for what little I know of the Bible, it is Job just, when I first was introduced to Job, he didn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he would after 2 hours either, but I'd sure like to sit down and see. Yeah.
Did you know that Job is the oldest book in your Bible?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's the oldest book in the Bible.
I did not know that.
Yes, sir. It was written before Moses wrote the Pentateuch, the first 5 books.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you come upon that fact?
Oh, I went to Bible school. So.
Oh, well, there you go. You went up on me.
There you go. I have a slight advantage. I went to Bible school, and I sat under some excellent Bible teachers and instructors, and some really good men.
Mm-hmm.
And it was yeah. So it's a great.
What would you find out if you sat down for 2 hours with Job?
With Job? Oh man,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I would want to ask him about his experience and speaking directly to God. What that was like.
Uh-huh.
Because the last 4 or 5 chapters of the book is he and God actually having discourse.
Right.
And some of the things that are said, not that Job spoke much, but I think that would be fascinating just to understand how it felt to hear the actual voice of God, so I'd be fascinated by that. One thing that I do want, what I would like to do if I was able to sit down and have a 2-hour coffee, I want to sit down with Elijah. And I want to hear firsthand the prophet Elijah. I want to hear the story when he took on the 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel. I want to hear that.
Oh, yeah. The prophet Elijah. Yes, indeed.
I think it'd be fascinating. Fascinating conversation. As a matter of fact, I used to joke around too when I was preaching. I would say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask the Lord if I can, get some instant replay. I want to watch that. We can hit the rewind button and check it out, man. That'd be awesome. All right, let me ask you the next one then. So, if you could put one sentence on a billboard that everyone would see, what would it say?
That's kind of easy. I think I'd put "Be kind."
I agree with you. That's a very, very much needed message today. Did I lose you?
Yep.
Are you there?
Yeah, well, I'm here.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I thought I lost you for a second.
Yeah.
It's a much needed message for today. There's a lot of polarization in this country. There's a lot of pent up anger, a lot of pent up frustration.
There is, and I don't think we ought to get into that tonight. But
no.
It's so troubling.
It truly is. It truly is. But I know we could spend all night sitting here just shooting the breeze like this. But I want to talk about you. I want to get your background. I want to hear about your journey. I want to talk about your book. We got a lot of ground to cover here. So let me get right on into it. What was it like growing up on Chicago's South Side during the mid 20th century?
Chicago's. I don't know if you've ever whether you're familiar with Chicago or what it's like, but Chicago today it's a great town. It's a wonderful place to visit. Friends of mine go there and say, "Wow, who knew?" But that was not the Chicago I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And honestly, objectively, I think back upon that Chicago, and it wasn't as good a place, but it certainly was an interesting place. And I'm a South Side boy, and if any Chicagoan will tell you, the South Side, the North Side, Chicago is 50 little villages, 50 wards, 50 little villages, 50 neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them don't like each other. And in any event, it's a really, in ways it's a very divided place, and in ways, not. In ways, every Chicagoan is very proud of being Chicagoan. And long ago, a New Yorker writer named Joe Liebling called Chicago the second city, and it stuck. And everybody in Chicago's got this kind of lasting inferiority complex about it, and they're kind of pugnacious about it too. And you know, they name their improv theater Second City and stuff like that.
Is that where that came from?
It came from Joe Liebling, a famous New Yorker writer of the past, and he wrote about it, and you know, called it the Second City, and it stuck.
Yeah.
But it was I can't sum Chicago up in a word. It took me 3 novels to, you know, basically get off my chest what I had to say about it. But I was born in Hyde Park, which is the neighborhood where Obama's home is. I grew up about 5 blocks from Obama's home.
Okay.
Hyde Park at that time was what's the University of Chicago neighborhood, which distinguishes it. It isn't anything like the rest of the South Side. The rest of the South Side is very ethnic, you know, kind of insular, and Hyde Park is kind of a more cosmopolitan community. The university influence means a lot. Back then, it wasn't a Jewish neighborhood, but a lot of Jews lived there. And I'm Jewish. So that was part of it. And I went to public school, went to Chicago public schools, went to a school called Kenwood. And when I was 14 years old, we moved because Hyde Park was, the word that was used back then was changing, which is polite way of saying racially changing.
I see.
Yeah. And Chicago, one of the things that really distinguishes the Chicago of those days was it was the most rigidly segregated city in America, including, you know, in the South. I mean, sociologists have studied it and said Chicago was really a segregated city, and blacks had to live, pretty much de facto, had to live in this neighborhood that became known as Bronzeville, which was about 30 blocks from where I grew up, and which is where my grandpa, Nathan Joseph, ran a movie theater, 3507 South State Street, called the States Theater, which I fictionalize in the novels as the Calumet. And so my grandfather was a white Jewish merchant in an all-black neighborhood, which was not an uncommon thing. And he went down there every day, you know, every day of his adult life, well into old age, and ran that movie theater. And that was a big part of my growing up experience, because I loved to go down to that theater. And what I really loved was going down with my dad and going to White Sox games, because you could walk to the White Sox Comiskey Park, 4 blocks from the movie theater, which we did every time my grandpa felt like taking in a ball game. You know, he didn't have a lot of things. He didn't have a lot of hobbies in his life. His business and his family was pretty much it, except for the White Sox. And so my first novel, To Love Mercy, starts with the White Sox and ends with the White Sox. And I'll just tell you, you know, a little bit, because this is all based on my growing up. It's fiction. None of it ever happened, but all of it might have happened. And it's, you know, based very much on the first 29 years of my life. Wow. And a story that I like, this may give you a feel for it. We would drive down there from Hyde Park, about 30 blocks. And when we get to this neighborhood, my dad would say, lock the doors. And I was only 6 years old or so. And he didn't tell me why, but, you know, I was only 6. I didn't know a lot, but I wasn't stupid. And what that said to 6-year-old Frankie Jovi was, this is the most dangerous place in America. And the reason is everybody here is black. And my dad was not a prejudiced person. He really wasn't. Neither my dad nor my mom. They were very tolerant, open-minded people for the times. But he was just being realistic. He viewed it as the most dangerous place in the world too. When I started, when I got the idea many years later as an adult to start writing a novel about these times, and I did research, and I wound up talking to half a dozen people who grew up in Bronzeville during that period, Black people. They had exactly the opposite. They viewed Bronzeville as a friendly little country town where nobody locked the doors and everybody kept an eye on one another's kids. And where they felt uneasy was when they had to leave Bronzeville and go downtown and be in the white world. So interesting was right. It was an eye-opening experience writing these novels, just, for finding out things like that too. And just a side note about the way, when you're writing a novel, you're doing research. You got to do, a historical novel like this, even though I lived this, I had to do research because I was able to write, the white Jewish part with no problem, but I couldn't write the Black part because I didn't really know. So I had to, find these people and, sit down in their homes and in public places and just talk to them and ask them what their experience was living in Bronzeville in those, in the 40s and 50s. And at the same time I was listening to what they were saying, I was sort of trying to let them come in through my pores because I wanted to write, in their voices. And, I was, kind of noting their mannerisms and their patterns of speech and the things that they emphasized and stuff. And, just sort of trying to get us, put myself inside of their skin, because a writer is like an actor, except he plays all the parts. And these novels are all written in first person. They're multiple narrators, some of them white, some of them Black, some of them kids, some of them grown-ups. And so I have to, I kind of had to, I had to be that person when I was writing that person.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Because as when we were talking to each other before the show started, I read you the first couple of paragraphs of To Do Justice, the third novel in the series, and that's in the voice of an 11-year-old kid, of mixed race, as you come to know, who is, being brought up by a woman named Jolene, who isn't related to her and doesn't, it turns out that we don't know for quite a while why she's being raised by Jolene, although she says in the third paragraph, Jolene's just doing it for the welfare check.
Yeah.
So, I'm creating a world, I'm creating a character, and I'm doing it all with brushstrokes. Mm-hmm. And letting the reader do, fill in the blanks to the extent that it's possible. So anyway, that's, I don't know. I don't know. Where am I going with this? Who knows? Your turn.
That's all right. This is all about you tonight, my friend. So don't worry about it. The floor is yours. It's all good. I love listening to you. I love listening to the way you describe the stories. And you read that brief passage for me.
When I was 14, we moved to the suburb, 35 miles south of town. And my first day in school, I was sitting behind a girl named Binny Rosenblum, first day freshman class. And she turns around, we're talking, and she's talking in this Queen's accent. And she says to me, where are you, we say, where are you from? And she says she's from New York City. And I say, I'm from Chicago. And she said, I could tell that you have the worst Chicago twang I've ever heard. And I'd never even heard the phrase Chicago twang. I didn't know what that sounded like.
I had never heard that term either, but
yeah. Well, I'm not sure she knew what it meant either. We were just 14 years old.
Okay. Well, we'll give a pass on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Right, really, very, very important question.
Can you hear the Chicago in my voice still these many years later?
I guess. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with the Chicago accent.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ones, but just curious.
Yeah, no. Well,
Yeah.
people tell me
I
I've lost my New York accent.
Oh, I couldn't tell you when you said you were from New York, but
Yeah.
if you hadn't said it, I wouldn't have known
Yeah, it comes out when I get angry.
it.
It does. Unfortunately it does.
Yeah.
But very important question. Cubs or White Sox?
They're my sentimental favorites. They really are. But I don't. I've been living in the Washington area since 1969, and I've become a Nationals fan. I mean, actually, the team I actually follow to the extent I follow any team is the Nationals.
Okay.
The White Sox will always have be my sentimental favorite, but I don't even know how they're doing this year.
Yeah, I haven't
Or
really
whether the baseball season is still. I guess it's not baseball season.
no, but spring training starts very soon.
Spring training. You ever go to spring training?
I've been to a couple of spring training
I
games.
have too.
They're the best.
That's the way to see
Yeah.
baseball.
No, actually, I got a better one for you. Where I lived when I lived in New York, I lived on Staten Island, and there was a minor league. It's an A-level minor league team for the Yankees. Played on Staten Island, and I
Yeah.
used to love to go to those games because
Yeah.
those are kids that are fresh out of high school, college,
Yeah.
and they are hungry and they play hard.
It's lousy baseball, but a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. No, when my grandson wanted to be a professional baseball player, and he could have if he, with a couple of different breaks, and if he worked at it a little harder, he could have been, because he's 6'3" and he can throw a ball a mile and he can hit a ball a mile. And he could. I mean, he's a spectacular baseball player when he was a kid, and he lived, breathed, and just everything was the Nationals. And so I took him to spring training a couple of times when he was around 13 or so.
Mhm.
And I loved it because you can sit about, the third row or so. You can, smell their sweat in their armpits. You can catch a ball. It's real easy.
Yeah,
And,
it's much more personal too.
you can see some pretty good baseball too, because they are professionals.
Yeah, and they're playing for a spot, so
Yeah,
they're playing their
right.
heart out.
Yeah, and you find a favorite or two, and the next thing you know, he's gone, he's cut, he's traded. You never hear from him again. But
Yes, I know,
it
I
was
know.
great fun. I loved going to spring training.
Oh, that's yeah. I love minor league ball. I love the spring training games. I think they're the best. But I want to
Yeah.
ask you a serious question though.
Sure.
Serious question. So, how did your early experiences shape your view of race and community?
Well, that incident with my dad when I was 6, and much later I started to talk about the changing neighborhoods. We talked about neighborhoods changing around 1950.
Mhm.
Hyde Park began to change, and here's the history. In 1948, I think, or 49, I think 48, the Supreme Court ruled against something called restrictive covenants, which were agreements made between landlords and tenants
Right.
that had the force of law prior to this Supreme Court ruling, but they weren't. They weren't law. They were, private agreements between tenants, which amounted to being able to control whether, who moves, who occupies their property. And invariably it was, Black people couldn't live as a practical matter, couldn't live anywhere in the city of Chicago except this one neighborhood that stretched from about 18th Street or 21st Street or so south to about 39th Street or so. And it was, a couple of square miles, and all the blacks, just virtually all the Black people in Chicago lived in Bronzeville. And where this started to become a serious thing was that in the 40s and 50s, after the war, Chicago was booming. The South was a terrible place to live. and there was this tremendous migration up from the South.
Mhm.
So this neighborhood became really overcrowded and suffered all the problems of an overcrowded neighborhood. And there was crime, and there was overcrowding, and there were social problems, and there was poverty. Um, and and so this issue came before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court made restrictive covenants illegal, meaning landlords could no longer discriminate on a racial basis. And so, slowly, it didn't happen overnight, of course, but slowly, things started to loosen up. And there was this tremendous pressure to get out of Brownsville, even from people who loved it, just because they knew that it was really second-class citizenship, to live there. And so here was this beautiful neighborhood, Hyde Park, 30 blocks away. And, they better schools, particularly better schools. Hyde Park High School back then was viewed as the best, the best high school on the south side of Chicago.
Mhm.
But you had to live in the district. So Black people began to move into Hyde Park. And at first they came, they started renting apartments on the western edge of the neighborhood. And slowly, they sort of migrated toward the lake, which is where we lived. We lived kind of midway between there and there. And the neighborhood, started, you started seeing Black faces in a formerly almost entirely white neighborhood. And, a lot of people didn't want to do that. And they say there's a funny statement about Jews, which I think there's some truth, which is, Jews don't stick around; they run. I mean, they've been running, for 5 millennia, and that's what they do. And so, at a sign of trouble, they
That's a good one.
they get in the car and go someplace else. And so, starting around 1950, there was this exodus from Hyde Park, largely to the northern suburbs, Winnetka, Glencoe, Highland Park. They're very nice places to live. Excuse me. And we didn't go. We were not the first to leave. And my grade school, a lot of the kids that I would have graduated with didn't graduate with me because they relocated to Glencoe. But finally, my family decided to move too, and it was 1954, which was 3 or 4 years into this exodus. And so we moved to this suburb called Park Forest, which was, for you Easterners, kind of like the Levittown of the Midwest.
Okay. What we're talking about.
Yeah, and it was a real melting pot. It just had people coming from all over the country. Just I gave you a small example of it. In Benny Rosenblum sitting in front of me in first year in school, and she's from Long Island. And it was back then. It was all white too. I mean, the high school I went to was a very good high school, but this was like being plucked out of my home and being made to live on Mars. And I really didn't like it at first, and nobody consulted me. But in retrospect, I went to a very good high school, got a great education at
Mhm.
public high school that I went to there, went on to Northwestern University, and made some friends, excuse me, who are still my friends. All these years later, three other guys that I went to high school with are all still alive, knock wood, and we're all still buddies too, although we don't see each other very often, right?
Yeah.
So those were formative experiences. And that business of the changing neighborhoods is the jumping off point of the third novel, To Do Justice.
Okay.
Whereas the, kind of the business about my dad taking me down to the theater and saying, "Lock the doors," is kind of, in a way, the inspiring experience of the first one, to Love Mercy. To Love Mercy starts with the White Sox, as I said, and this white family, they drive down to a White Sox game with the grandfather, and they park in this parking lot, and they walk to the game, and it goes into extra innings, and they come out, and it's after midnight, and they go to the car, which is parked at the back of this lot, and a bunch of young black kids just sort of come out of the darkness, and really young black kids, 10, 11-year-old kids couldn't harm a fly. But they start dancing around and, taunting and teasing and asking for money, asking for dimes. And one of them tries to pick the grandfather's pocket, and the grandfather feels it and, turns around real fast, and not meaning to, kind of knocks the kid down, and the kid falls to the ground and breaks his nose, and is rendered unconscious. And so this white family and all the other kids scatter. So this white family is sitting there.
Do you need to take a break to get some water or something?
Thank you. I will do that. I'll be right back. You fill the air for a sec. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, folks. So let's see. Anybody have any comments in the chat down here? I want to make anything. Let's see. So Bill talks about bourbon. I love bourbon. I don't know if Bill's still with us here, but I love bourbon. Bourbon's one of my favorite things. I'm definitely a bourbon guy. Nice cigar too, that type of stuff. I'm looking through some of the comments that folks have been leaving in the chat here. Bill said I don't know if I can show this because it's a private chat. No, I can't. So I think you could see it though. Do you have an option to open up a chat?
Oh, I'm watching the chat.
Okay.
It's all going by. These are people I know. Bill Tetzloff is a guy I went to college with and was my ski buddy.
Okay, all right.
Back in the days when I could still do that.
So just for clarification for the folks that are listening or watching and don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
So when prior to the show, I send out an email to our guests giving links to the show. I give a studio link, and then I have the links to share. And some little mistake happened here, and the studio link was given out instead of the share links. So we have a bunch of people in the studio, in the backstage area watching, which is interesting because I'm not used to seeing so many people down there. It's awesome. All right. Hey, Frank, so let me ask you this. So tell us a little bit about the time when you were an Associated Press reporter. What moments of that time stand with you the most?
I worked for the AP from 1964 to 1967. I was 24 when I started, and I was 27 when I left. I view those 3 years as the most formative years of my life. I became the person I am in a lot of ways. This bureau was chaotic. It was a madhouse, and I really try and do my best to depict it in the third novel, To Do Justice. And there is one paragraph which I'm not going to be able to find this paragraph, but give me 1 second here, because
Go right ahead.
With any luck I might find it, because I did bookmark these paragraphs.
Go right ahead, my friend.
Well, let me just say that it was a crazy place. It was a wonderful place. And I was lucky enough to have a mentor, a wonderful guy named Joe Dill, who kind of took me under his wing and really taught me all the things that I really needed to know. And eventually, that was 1964, 5, 6, 7. And around 1965 or so, the riots started. And the first one, I'll never forget this. I was sitting there. It was, the usual kind of night. We're sitting there, not much going on, and all of a sudden, the city news bureau wire starts clanging, and everybody runs over and sees what's coming on, and I can almost tell you word for word what the story was. It was police report rioting in southwest of the Loop, and looting is reported. And the feeling I got in my stomach was a cold chill, because I was such a naive kid that the idea of looting in my town was just utterly foreign to me. Of course, I came to understand that that's what happened every time. But in short order, I was out there on the street covering these things. And it is a life-changing experience to be in the middle of a riot. You're a reporter, and so you sort of feel like you've got some kind of an immunity, but you really don't. All you've got is a spiral pad and a pen, and a press card if you ever get a chance to show it, which mostly you don't. And you're not armed, and you're just there as an observer, and you're living by your wits, and trying to make a faithful record of what's going on, finding a payphone, calling it in, and then going back out there on the street and watching more. And it's a life changing. I mean, I said that before, and it's kind of a cliche, but it really is a life changing experience to cover a riot. And in due course, there was the Detroit riot, which was, in terms of lives lost and property damage, the worst inner city riot in America, which I covered. And they flew me there. And I never even set foot in the town of Detroit at that point. They flew me there on the first night, and I went to the hotel they'd gotten me. And the next morning, I showed up at the Detroit bureau, and they gave me a rental car and said, drive to 12th and Taylor. And so I, followed the directions, drove there, found a place to park the car. But before I did that, I drove through the riot zone. And for some reason, at 9 o'clock in the morning of the second morning, they were letting traffic through. The cops weren't stopping. So I was, going 2 miles an hour up 12th Street through the worst of the rioting, and looking at these bombed out storefronts and signs on a lot of them saying "Soul Brother," saying black owned, and it didn't make any difference. They were just as trashed as the other ones. And I get to the end, and I pull off on a side street, and I park the car, and I get out of the car, not having a clue as to what I'm going to do. And I get out of the car and with my pad and my pen, and I start walking back toward 12th Street. And a neighborhood resident comes up to me and, asks me who I am and what I'm doing. And I say something like, I'm a reporter for the Associated Press. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, and another person comes up, and another person comes up. And pretty soon I got 10 or 20 people standing around me, and they're telling me their side of the story. And I'm just, writing as fast as I can and asking an occasional question, but mostly I don't have a chance to talk, occasional question. So they, I got a great story in that moment, because nobody had talked to people, who were inside the neighborhood experiencing these things. And I think I probably wrote one of the very few or only stories anybody ever wrote. So the Associated Press put it out on their wire for all the papers in the world, and a lot of papers, I'm sure, printed it. And that was an experience that I fictionalized that experience in the novel too. I tell this story, but that was an extraordinary experience.
That's just, I
Um,
can only
yeah.
imagine.
And then, you know, I was shot at. The only time I was ever shot at, I was shot at in Detroit. It was dark. I couldn't tell where the shot was coming from. It was a single shot. Didn't hit me, of course, thank God.
Thank
But
God
I
for that.
knew, I knew I'd been shot at.
Wow. That's a sobering feeling.
Oh, I hope I never experience it again. Have you ever been shot at?
Yes, I have.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad to see you survived it too.
On more than one occasion.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Off the air, I'll tell you my background.
Okay. All right. So, you know, things like that. There's something in the novel that I didn't witness, but I, you know, did research and found that it happened. A woman died because a light pole, you know, a light pole snapped and fell on her. Yeah, right. And so my character Pinky sees this happen and describes it. And I don't wish I'd seen that, but you know, I could so vividly imagine something like that happening.
Actually, seeing it would have been.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had the words for it.
Right. And I, you know, in the book, I say, you know, poor woman never had a chance, you know, didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody knows what those light poles were like back in those days, they were
Right.
big, heavy, and
Right.
wow.
Right. But in the novel, you know, I have the people who are standing around talking to the reporter are saying things like, you know, looting? No, of course I wasn't looting or anything. You know, where'd you get that shirt? You know, well, you know, it's an awful nice shirt. And I got a cuckoo clock. I got a cuckoo clock. My mom loves those cuckoo clocks. And I was dragging the chains down the street, running down the street with it. And so, yeah, you know, and the person who's, you know, kind of the main person who's talking, saying, he says, don't report this. Well, no, I know you got to report it, but, you know, don't say the part about this or don't say the part about that,
Right.
you know, because, you know, they don't want to say they were engaged in criminal behavior and rioting behavior, but it was obvious to anybody who was out there, they saw it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because I'm watching the clock here. What led you from journalism to publishing and then eventually into novel writing?
Sure. Well, I was a reporter first for the City News. I wasn't a journalism major in college. I was a creative writing major. And when I was 21 years old, I envisioned myself sitting in a garret starving writing novels. And when I was 22 years old, I envisioned myself having breakfast on the table. And I'd done some journalism. I'd been on the high school paper. And so I started, you know, interviewing. And at that time, you know, it was just kind of Vietnam was just heating up. And I was 22 years old. And every place I went, they said, you're a nice young man and we'd like to give you a job. Come back after you've gotten your military service out of the way and we can talk. And eventually, after 3 weeks or so, I wind up at City News Bureau, which was a marvelous training ground. I was so lucky to land at City News for my first job. And I just loved working for City News. And that was really an adventure because I didn't know nothing. And that was where I learned how to spell, you know, reporter.
Right.
But I also picked up a lot of habits that they had to break me of at the AP. You know, like peeping through keyholes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Because, you know, at City News Bureau, anything went. You know, you're just not supposed to get caught.
Do what you got to do to get the story, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So that's okay. That was a good thing to learn, and then it was a good thing to unlearn. But I stayed at City News. I'm interviewing the guy who's running City News Bureau, a guy named Ike Gershman, and he offers me the job. And I say, Mr. Gershman, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been interviewing for 3 weeks now, and everybody else says, you know, you're a nice kid, and come back after you've gotten your military service out of the way. And you didn't say that. He said, That's okay. Nobody lasts longer than 6 months here anyway.
That's encouraging.
Which was a true fact. Except I loved it so much. I was there for 18 months.
That's
I
great.
did
Now,
6 months. I went into the Army. I did my 6 months in the Army. I came back out, and I went back to City News Bureau for a year more, just because I loved it so much. It was such fun. Yeah,
I wouldn't blame you. I had jobs like that in the past too that you just loved so much you never really wanted to leave.
yeah.
But let me ask you. So why
But
did you
anyway,
choose?
so I went from there to the AP, and then I went from there back to grad school, because I was seeing stuff, in these riots that I couldn't explain in 350 words for the A-wire. And I got the thought that I would go back to school and get a PhD in political sociology and spend the rest of my life trying to understand what I had been seeing on the streets.
Okay.
And so I got into the University of Chicago by great good luck, or not, because actually it was 2 very miserable years, and I wasn't cut out for grad school. I was not cut out to be an academic, and it just took me 2 years to realize that what I really was learning was I needed to get back into journalism. So eventually, I got to Washington, and I went to work for National Journal, my first job, and eventually I went to the Post. I was an editor at the Washington Post during Watergate from 1971 to 1975, and then there was a strike that basically resulted in me walking out and never walking back in again, and I wound up in what then was called the newsletter business, which is where I found a home. Newsletters back then were, sent through the mail. They're not email. There was no email. And I became the editor of a newsletter, very successful, very, very successful newsletter called U.S. Oil Week, which served middlemen in the gasoline and fuel oil business, about which I knew nothing. But 6 months later, I was an expert, and people were asking me questions about it. And
I think we lost the feed.
not
There he is.
not having a worldwide audience, and seeing all the news through the eyes of your readers. But if you could accommodate to that, and I did, you could just do kick-ass journalism. And we did kick-ass journalism. And then later on, with two colleagues and we started our own company where we also did kick-ass journalism. So I was doing that, and eventually I became proprietor of my own company, and I found I had an ability to write marketing copy. So I started consulting and getting marketing clients, and then we sold our little bitty publishing company, and I continued doing client work, and then the last client sort of peeled off when I was 5 years older than I ever expected it to be. And at that point, I started writing those novels that I had been thinking about all those years.
Now, I
That's
want
my
to ask
whole
you.
life. That's my whole life.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your book, but I think what we'll do is we're going to save the questions about the book for when you come back in April.
Geez, I'd love that. But before you do that, let me at least put in a little pitch here. This novel, To Do Justice, the third novel of my Chicago trilogy, was Book of the Year runner-up from the Chicago Writers Association, and also won their novel contest. And it's won a lot of awards, and you can get it anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Goodreads. Get it at your favorite bookstore. It's called, the titles are To Love Mercy, To Walk Humbly, and To Do Justice. And I hope everybody listening will buy and read those novels.
Well, I wasn't wrapping it up just yet.
Oh, darn. You mean I get a second chance to do that?
Yes, you do. You do. But since you mentioned it, though, so for the books that you've read, the trilogy you've written, what reactions have you gotten from readers who actually lived through the period of time that you wrote?
Oh, well, let's just look at some of your chats. Here's Bill saying there are also restrictive covenants in neighbors in the suburbs on property through sale from owner to owner. I think that existed in white neighborhoods on the west side.
All right.
Frank is right. The AP of that time was a literate nut house. Sue Stevens, good program. Thank you. Sue Stevens, I dated Sue Stevens. She worked for UPI.
Nice. Look at that.
See,
Reunions all around.
this is my fan club here.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So you want to plug the book one more time, my friend?
Sure. To love mercy, to walk humbly, and to do justice. And the titles are all from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. What doth the Lord require of thee? To walk, to love mercy, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. They are tales of blacks and whites, Christians and Jews, how children view the world, conflict and forgiveness, and Chicago at mid-century, a great city going up in flames.
All right.
And that's the pitch.
All right. Well, who is someone that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you? Weren't expecting that one, were you?
I wasn't expecting that one. I can think of a lot of people. Barack Obama, who fell short, but meant a lot. Made a lot of difference.
Okay.
He did fall short, and we don't see these things while they're happening. You can just sort of be in the tank for Barack Obama, and then when after it's over, you say, "Geez, he should have done this, he should have done that," and he should have. He missed a lot of opportunities. He made some bad calls, did some bad things.
And you can say that about any administration, though.
But you sure can. You sure can.
Absolutely.
And just his existence made a difference in America in a bad way immediately, I think. I mean, here I am showing my own political inclinations, but
It's okay.
which I probably shouldn't do. But I think what happened following Barack Obama was a tremendous reaction that nobody, certainly not I, was prepared for. And now we're really in a new place. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's on the other side of this, and I don't think anybody does.
No, definitely in uncharted territory.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably kind of tell, you and your listeners can probably kind of tell from the time we've been talking here that I view these novels as moral fiction. Mm-hmm. And they are historical novels. They are what I said they are and more. But I view them as moral fiction. They're serious novels. They tell gripping stories. They're fun to read. There's a lot of humor in them. But, at bottom, I'm talking about serious questions that, are with us all the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to reading the books. And I'm really looking forward to coming back in April. And
I'd love to.
And being able to actually talk more detailed specifics about the book. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I sent you the PDF for the one, if you can,
get started.
Get started on it and
absolutely
see what you think.
Absolutely. Right. So do you have a website that we could
I do, frankjoseph.com, real easy.
All right. And your books are available on Amazon. Where else?
Amazon, Goodreads, your favorite bookstore, independent bookstore, Barnes and Noble, wherever fine literature is sold. Hopefully in your library. If it's not in your library, ask your library to shelve it.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll definitely check that out for sure.
Yeah.
I've been here 10 years. I've never been to the public library here.
Oh, shame on you.
I have the internet right in front of me.
No, I know, but libraries, my God, libraries are wonderful things.
And I hear it's very nice, actually.
In my retirement years, libraries have been my my main voluntary activity. I conduct a teen writers club through one of our local libraries. I was on the board of the Friends of the Library for 8 years until, I was term limited off. Excuse me. I've done, libraries are my main volunteer activity, such as it is. And I just think everybody ought to have a library card and patronize their local libraries. There is such a wealth of things that you can get now.
Oh yes, no, I
And
agree with
not just books, not far from just books. Electronic stuff, ebooks, computers. You can go in there, use the computers for free. They have events. I just can't say enough good things about public libraries.
All right, outstanding.
And I'm very distressed to see how they're being attacked in a lot of places. I just really am very, as most writers are, as most literary people are.
I'm sure. I'm actually surprised though that libraries are still around. To be honest with you.
Well, they don't do the same thing. They evolve.
Yeah.
They don't do the same thing they did when you were a kid. When you were a kid and there was a card catalog and you could get the book for 2 weeks and you had to renew it or pay a nickel a day or a penny a day.
I remember that.
It's not like that now. It's real different.
I remember that Seinfeld episode with the library cop. Do you remember him? Did you ever see that one?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, you have to find that one if you can.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I got to do a read and then close out the show. So I'm going to put you backstage, and I'll come right back to you as soon as I'm done closing everything.
Terrific.
Up. All right. So hang out. All right, folks. Frank S. Joseph. Make sure you check him out. Visit his website. Get his book. And the little bit that he shared with me prior to the show was really intriguing, and I think you're really going to like it. So I'm looking forward to sitting down to reading it. So, folks, Frank S. Joseph, thank you so much, sir, for being with us tonight. Really do appreciate it. God bless you, and I'll see you backstage in just a couple minutes. All right. All righty. All right, folks. Well, it's that time, and I have to do this. So it's tax season, as you know. And you know my position on taxes. Taxation is theft. Remember that. Taxation is theft. We need to get rid of taxation altogether. Don't believe in taxation. I think it's outdated, unnecessary, and theft. All right. But that said, you still got to file your taxes. So head over to the Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. They're right here in Eagle Pass. You can reach them at 830-867-7106. These folks did my taxes for me last year. They did a fantastic job with it. They maximized my refund, minimized the stress, and they could do the very, very same thing for you. So please head over to Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. Call them at 830-867-7106. It's 830-867-7106. And let them know you heard it right here on the Joe Rooz Show. I want to get my taxes done for free this year. All right. All right. And last but not least, let's give our shout-outs to our producing team. Executive producers, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and, of course, the inestimable Anonymous Angela. Thank you guys, for all the stuff that you put me through, or I put you through, I should say, to get these shows put together. Folks, these folks donate their time, their talent, their treasure. They help out in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine to put these shows together. So I really do appreciate each and every one of them. And listen, if you want to find out more about how you can help us here on the show, maybe even become a producer of the show yourself, just head over to joerooz.com/support. That's joerooz.com/support. Take a look at all the different ways you can help us out. We have one-time donations available. We have recurring monthly donations available. And then we have the producer tiers. We have our associate producer tier, for a monthly recurring donation of $17.76. Then we have our producer tier for $18.36 a month. And then we have our executive producer tier for $25 a month or more. Now, you could, as executive producers, you get an extra benefit in addition to all the shout-outs on every show, like you just heard, included in all the show notes and emails, everything we send out, all that recognition and appreciation. But as an executive producer, you get to come on the show with us for a segment. That's why we do our Wednesdays with Wayne segment, which unfortunately we're not going to be doing tonight, but we'll be doing it next Wednesday. But Wayne comes on, spends an hour with us, and we just shoot the breeze, talk about what's going on there in the People's Republic of Washington State with his podcast that he's in the process of developing, and all the great stuff going on around the ranch. So we look forward to that. And you could get that benefit too. Just sign up as an executive producer. You can do it right there on the website. All the information is available to you right there. All right. Don't forget, tomorrow night we have our Thursday night show. Tomorrow our guest will be Daniel Gray. And, we really do appreciate Daniel moving his schedule around to come on Thursday night. He was supposed to be on Tuesday, but I had to do the panel show. So Daniel's going to be on tomorrow night, so we really appreciate that. And we're looking forward to talking to him. He has a great story. So you guys should definitely check it out and tune in. And don't forget, this is a live show, weeknight, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Head over to rumble.com/Joe Rooz and follow the show there, or go to YouTube at Joe Rooz on YouTube. You can follow the show there as well. You shouldn't really be on YouTube, to be honest with you. I mean, we're going to get kicked off YouTube very soon. I already have 2 strikes. So come over to Rumble, free speech, say what you got to say. Don't worry about YouTube. Just come on over to Rumble. All right? It's fun here. The water's fine. Come on in. All right? We like it here. It's great. So rumble.com/Joe Rooz. Sign up. Follow the show right there. It's free. Means it don't cost you nothing. So come on over. Come on over. Come on over. All right. I think that should just about do it for me for tonight. So, again, thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to head over to the website, joerooz.com. joerooz.com. Leave us a message. Let us know what you think. All right, folks, listen. Make Texas independent again. Go podcasting. Keep a steady stride. Keep talking. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, folks.